and welcome back to another episode of Over the Glass. I am your host, Jay.
I am other host Nessa. Today we have Amanda Cain. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today. I am a big fan. But before I start fangirling, would you mind introducing yourself, how you identify, and how you got into hockey?
Well, my name is Amanda Cain. I am the manager of photography for the San Jose Sharks. I identify as lesbian. She and her are my pronouns. How I got into hockey, I don't even know. It's a interesting story. I applied for a job, and I didn't necessarily think a hockey team would hire me, but I was lucky enough to actually have the hiring manager, take interest in my work. And so honestly, I think it was, while it was a team of people that probably made that final decision or had input, it was one person that literally gave me an opportunity to be in this role. Hockey as a child, I am from Detroit, and so I'm a Red Wings fan. Sorry to use Shark fan. But it's, I've watched hockey on TV. I went to games at the old Jolos Arena. Um, so yeah, I guess I kind of grew up in the know of hockey and with championship vibes. So yeah, that's really the hockey story.
You're probably the third Red Wings fan we've had on the
See,
podcast. Somehow it
running the
keeps
clock,
happening.
man. Like that's what we do.
So, we've been listening to you over the last couple of days because you've been on quite a few podcasts that are in our local um, area with Mo and again with Tara recently. So,
Yeah.
we really wanted to try our best to elaborate on some of the stuff that you've already talked about. One of the things that resonated with me was when you were talking about your journey to becoming, an artist, a photographer, how you started out thinking, maybe I'll do something in like medicine, and you did. I think you mentioned you went to like a camp and you realized, oh, this is not what I want to do.
Yep.
And for me, I grew up mostly around folks in the medical field and engineering in like my family. So it almost, and I mean, I love science. So it just kind of felt like this is the natural path for me. There were very few artists in my like immediate family. I think the closest that I had influence with that was like my uncle's an architect. And it wasn't really like what I wanted to do. I thought it was kind of neat, but then like it just didn't vibe with me. And
Yeah.
so I went into college thinking, yeah, I'm going to become a vet. I'm going to do this medical route. And it just wasn't working out for me. I remember in my final semester before I decided, no, I need to make a change to my major. I had a roommate who pretty much was doing what I ended up graduating with. Like, I would be on my end of the room trying to, through the process of hopefully osmosis, like just getting the text into my brain, it's just the grind of regurgitating all this information, like test after test. And she's over there, like, creating some, like, amazing, like, digital related art. And I'm like, oh man, this is a sign that if I'm enjoying what you're doing and I'm dreading what I'm going to school for, I need to make this change. So, can you kind of elaborate on, for our audience, like your experience going through your journey to figure out where you need to be in life?
Well, I think the medicine route that you speak of was more of, I used to watch a lot of Trauma Life in the ER back in the day on TLC.
Yeah.
And it just seemed interesting. And plus doctors made money. You know what I mean? So you're trying to find the path that you're just like, yeah, I want to be successful. I'm going to own a house. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Um, there, you don't even realize that really the whole point or majority or what it should be is that you should be happy in life. And so I've always been happy doing artwork. whether that was the little clay pots that you make as a when you're in elementary school and grade school, and you like give your mom, the little gifts for like Mother's Day and her birthday and stuff like that. Like, I've always liked that. Also, all those things are still around in my childhood home, which is kind of weird. It's just like looking back at that, I was like, really, that was not the best. But like all of those things carried through my childhood. Photography, yeah, on family trips, I would take, disposable cameras back in the day when we would go to like Disneyland, and just like on family trips to Cedar Point and all these other, you know what I mean? Like, it was just something that there's something tangible to hold and be like, oh, I want to take pictures. There was no cell phone cameras in that day. And so that was really the only way you could, keep that memory besides, oh, yeah, I remember when. So that was kind of truly how photography started. But then again, I was never thinking I could make a career out of it. So I went through the progression of high school where I played a lot of sports, and I took art classes, and I was like, cool, I love this. It was the easiest A for me because that was what I enjoyed. But I knew artists don't make money, or they tell you artists don't make money.
The
Um,
starving artist trope. Yep.
Well, yeah. And so then I went to school with the assumption of, okay, I love sports. Like, I had did a whole medical camp, the summer of my junior year, and I saw a cadaver, and I was just like, yeah, this is not for me. So that was like, okay, that's not going to work. So what? And when you have to declare for your major, you're like, you have to be sure, or they tell you you have to be sure, or you have to like focus on something. And so the first thing I focused on was sports studies, because I was like, yeah, I love sports, so why not work in sports? Little did I know what that included. It was a lot of stats, it was a lot of writing. It was just, I was like, I'm not a writer. I'm 18 years old in sports class, and I'm just like, I don't like this stuff, you know? So that led to, okay, what else can I do? And it was like, maybe I can be a teacher, And so that led to me getting into one of those introductory teaching classes and having to go to, what do you call it, shadow a teacher. So I went back to my old grade school, and I shadowed one of, I think she was like a third grade teacher, fourth grade teacher at the time. And I just remember that day being chaotic and all over the place, and me just thinking, I don't know if I'm ready for this. And that was partly, I want to say, beginning of sophomore year. Um, and so then it was like the point of, I started taking an art class. How can I make this work so that I'm not having to do the writing, the stats, like all, you know what I mean? Like, because all that stuff to me was just foreign. I'm not necessarily the smartest person. Like, I did like math, but at this point, like, you can give me equations. I look at you, be like, that was a long time ago. I don't, not me anymore. So I talked to a couple people within the art department, and graphic design came up several times, and I was like, cool, alrighty. But it was mostly computer graphics. When I was in high school, I did all these line designs and, just really 2D design, which I loved. And even I would probably classify myself, if I could do printmaking, like, I would love to do that as well, but never like been able to take those classes. I always took the sculpture classes because it was always building. It was always hands-on material, mixed media stuff that I could do. So I would really say I got into graphic design because it was another form that I could use to make art. It was never, I don't think I ever thought about it as, oh yeah, I could take over the world with my design. I mean, that's what everybody tells you. Like, when you're in class, you're sitting here like, well, this is good design, and this is how you make a booklet, and this is how you get certain like jobs and whatnot. But I was never, I don't think I ever understood the concept of like, okay, I'm gonna design for somebody else. It was like I always did design my way, which right or wrong, um, that's why I had a lot of hardships in the beginning of my career because it was usually my way. So from there, like I finally got into the program. I did not make it into the program the first time, but I think at some point they're just like, oh yeah, well she's trying, so she can be in the program. Like legit, that's what I actually think. Um, they can tell me wrong. Like if my professors are listening, please tell me. Um, but legit, like I was just like, dude, I just need to get out of college. I think I was in my fourth year at that point in time, and I just wanted to be done. So I did whatever I could to just be done. Like I had fun with it. Like I loved, making different booklets, digital compositing, which was interesting at the time. Like when you think about that, I'm like, man, that's true art. Because what people do, cutouts and all that other stuff, that is artwork. That is tedious stuff that you have to do on a regular basis. And I'm glad that I did not go down that road because it just wouldn't have suited me. Um, but photography was always something again in the background. I took a film class. I took well a couple film classes, then a digital class, and then an advanced digital class. But again, nothing in college basically said, "Oh yeah, you can do this full time." The art professors that I had, or the photography professors, they were teaching, and so I would have to go back into teaching if I wanted to make a career in photography. Like if that was really the option. So I was just like, whatever. I'll finish graphic design. I'll get some kind of job, whether that's working for a university or a newspaper. And so, yeah, that's basically what I did. The first job was working for a newspaper, doing basically a production artist typesetting, sometimes being able to recreate newspaper ads, but it wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do. So, like that first year and a half really was a struggle for me to understand why am I doing this, because it really wasn't what I enjoyed, and what I enjoyed was photography. And that's kind of how it progressed into me becoming a full-time photographer, was just realizing that okay, maybe I'm not going to make the money up front, but hopefully down the line, if I work at this hard enough, um, I could really do something that I'm proud of. So it was really, it was a lot of like back and forth thinking, like sometimes negative, sometimes positive, sometimes, and even nowadays, I think there's a lot of that still. You know what I mean? Like you're good, you shoot the shot of your life one day, and then you can't figure it out the next day, and so, but that's life. You know what I mean? I don't think college necessarily teaches you about the real world reality of what you'll be in with certain companies, corporations, or agencies, because it is cutthroat and they will work you to death.
Oh my god, just relating to what you're saying, because um like even though I graduated and I got a job and then I got laid off and then recession and then and you're just trying to make it in the world, and I feel like I knew everything up until I left college, and then it was like, oh, there's no manual to now
Right.
this life thing, and you
Yeah.
just kind of have to figure it out, and you see your peers and they seem to be doing the right thing, and you're like, why can't I do the right thing? What is this right thing for me? For me, my medium is video, and some of my best works are just creating stories through moving pictures, and you can't do that in IT. That's very much not what that's all about.
No.
So
I had a question because you mentioned that you dabbled in a lot of different mediums
Yep.
artistically, and because you did have a focus on graphic art, I was curious to know if you use what you've learned through that medium and other mediums like sculpting and stuff and apply it to your photography now.
Uh, it took a while to physically merge the two. even though right away in college they're like, oh yeah, you can do photos, you can use text, you can, you know what I mean, like you can create collages and X, Y, and Z. And I was like, okay, but why? There was no like substance to it. It was like you were just doing stuff for a grade, and that was it, like legit. So there was a lot of times after my first job that I just said I don't like graphic design because in the job that I had, I couldn't be creative or I couldn't think outside the box. Or every time I brought up a suggestion, it was like, no, the client wants this. The client, it was so rigid and structured that yeah, I hated it for a couple of years. Um, After that first job, and photography really like took off, and so I just kind of followed that trend. The way I got back into graphic design was the York Dispatch job because they needed a designer and a photographer. And while I did not still like graphic design, I was like, I need a job, and so I'm going to do this. I hated newspaper graphics ads. I'll say it. If any of those bosses are listening, they're like, okay, why did you just tell us that? But I did because you couldn't be creative enough because obviously there are people that pay for ads and they have to say so in how the ad is designed, or the newspaper has a way, or they've seen spec art. They're just like, oh yeah, can you just mock that up? Like there's no say so in the creative lane. So that's why photography was kind of always a thing, because when you went on assignment, yeah, you had to get your grip and grin, whatever, but you can also be creative in angles and how you photograph people at the event. It didn't just have to be straight on. So over that part, like a year and 3 months of that job, it became very evident that photography was that, and graphic design was not. um, it sucked to basically come to that, I guess, mutual agreement that this just wasn't going to work, because also I was also writing, I was also doing video, and I mean, most people are probably like, oh yeah, I do that on a regular basis. It's not how it should be. But I guess the way of the world, and what we're accustomed to nowadays is like the jack of all trades. And I'm just like, I don't necessarily want to be the jack of all trades, because you can't ever do something fully unless you're fully invested. Like video, I love video, but like the time and effort that I would have to put into that is just not what I want to give right now. You know what I mean? Like, it's a beautiful art form, and I love documentaries and storytelling. It's just something that would take more effort that at this point in time, I just can't give to it. So photography, same thing. It's most people say, "Oh yeah, you just show up and you take photos." Great for you. You just show up, take photos, and you just give people the photos. No, I mean, there's a artistry behind it. Some people who are photojournalists are just like, yeah, I'm just gonna quickly crop this, whatever, send it, cut line it, done. I am more methodical about the process of that. Like, I have a style. Obviously, I think most people have seen that. And so the process is a little bit different. While it's a little bit quicker than it used to be, I still have the same thought process. I've just learned how to speed it up and to make it work for everybody else, which you kind of have to adjust to that. And as an artist, a lot of times you don't like to do that. You're kind of like, well, this is a process. I need my time. I need my editing time. I need to get away from it. I need to come back to it. And so, while this job does not necessarily allow that, I do have things that I take my time on. So it's kind of a mixture of the stuff that I have to do for work and the stuff I can do out of work. And so for the York Dispatch job, there's a lot of out of work stuff that kept me focused in the direction that I wanted to go. So while graphic design was not working, I was graphically putting my efforts into like music photography or like shooting festivals, because that was the creative way of doing things. And so that ties into graphic design, because how my eye is visually placing images on a page or say a scroll gallery for Instagram, over time, it just went back to that normally. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like I don't want to do this, but here it comes creeping back in, and then I'm like visualizing. I'm like, here, typography should be here, typography should be there. It was always there. It's I've just had to like reset my mind to be like, you still are a designer. It's just in the form of photography now. So
And you're great at it. Like I can't,
yeah.
like I remember the first time I saw one of your photos. I think it was last season, and it was you were taking photos of Burns with his like old, like his classic truck, the red one.
Yes, yes.
And I saw that and I was like, yo, this is like better than anything I've seen the Sharks post on their socials. And then I remember commenting on Instagram and being like, hey, tag the photographer. I want to know who this is. And the reason I found you and found out who you were was because your fiance commented and told me, oh, by the way, this is her.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So I was
yeah.
like, sweet. And now I follow you on Instagram. And it's just like, such good work, man. I don't know. I don't know how. I
Thank you.
just, so good.
So currently, social wise, they do ask us if we want to be tagged on things. So it's a little bit different from last year's perspective, but like normally, if you ask me if I want to be tagged on something, it's completely up to you whether you want to tag me. If it fits, cool. If it doesn't, people already know. So, yeah.
You definitely have a signature in your photo style. So
Yes, yes, that is harder to keep sometimes because a lot of like my part-timers, they're still developing their signature, so it's very apparent. You know what I mean? So I think the biggest thing is having people kind of develop their own style but have it fit within our photography style. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard, and it's never as consistent as I want it to be currently. That doesn't mean that it can't be. It's just there's a process to everything, right? Like everybody's a different photographer. Everybody sees the world differently, and so having that all sing together, it just takes time. And so that's really what we've tried to do this year. And I think at this point, it is starting to push in the right direction. So, yeah.
I wanted to comment on your woes with graphic design because I definitely relate to what you said about how in the art field, seemingly these days it seems like you need to be the jack of all trades, so to speak. And I took a graphic design class, which I thought was going to be fun in grad school because I thought, oh, I should step out of my like because I got my graduate degree in web design, and I was thinking, oh, this would help me because in some of my previous classes that were more like UX related, you still had to do some graphic design related stuff, and this could be kind of fun. It wasn't fun. It was one of the hardest classes that I took. It's not something that comes naturally. I love looking at other folks' stuff, and so I just think like it's a grind out there.
Yeah.
Just trying to find that balance with things that you love and having to realize at the end of the day, well, yeah, you're gonna have to just work with the things that just kind of make you less excited to do the work.
That's just it. It's like in order to walk, you got to crawl. You got to take the necessary steps to
That's
get
where I'm at right now.
you got to take the necessary steps to get to the point to where you can basically be like, no, this is how this should be done. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of crawling. There's a lot of walking then falling. So I don't necessarily think structure is a bad thing. I just think a lot of organizations don't know how to creative use their employees. That's what I'll say. Like there are people that I feel like in some organizations that have other talents that are stuck in the position that they applied for, even though those people know that they want to be X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? Like I'm one of those people that, hey, if my part timer gets a better job, I'm happy for them because that's the point. You're not just gonna come here and stay a part timer. You know what I mean? Like you need to grow and you need to go on to your career goal, which is ultimately full time photographer, whatever you want to do. Like that's kind of the point. You know what I mean? If you're a part timer because you have a full time job, that's completely different. But I think all of my part timers for sure have that goal of, yeah, I want to be a team photographer. You know what I mean? So like giving them the best options or the best advice for how to go about things, as it's been a different experience for me this year. But I think it's helped to have a different variety of people that shoot with me. And so yeah, hopefully in the near future you'll be seeing one of them, take on that next role of team photographer, So
I love this approach because I feel like artists in general are very competitive by nature, right? It
yes.
like whatever industry you're going into, it's very cutthroat. Like everyone wants that job. Everyone is going for that same job. Uh, I haven't personally experienced someone be like, well, who cares about what you're doing? I need this for me, whatever. I've been lucky enough that in my field, I'm in animation, and a lot of the teachers and a lot of the people that I'm meeting are very humble and willing to lift you up, be like, I know you're coming for my job, but this is going to make the art form better. So let me teach you
Right.
everything that I know, you know?
Right.
And it's nice to see in I don't know if exactly any like how photography works, like the industry itself, but it's nice to see that it still carries over to a different industry because
Yep.
everyone can use all the help they can get.
Exactly. And legit, like there are some people that when they started a job, they had no idea what they were doing. Then they were given an opportunity. The point of the matter, the point why this year is so pivotal is the fact that there are very few people of color
Yeah.
that are in my position or director positions or X, Y, and Z. And so, what if I was, say, catapulted into, I don't know, photo director or something of some company? That way, I streamlined in people that look like me and then they return the favor. You know what I mean? Like, because I've heard so many stories of, like, oh, yeah, I've been doing this job for over 50 years. And my son was 12 years old, and I gave him the camera, and he sat in the stands. And I was just like, yeah, but that's never happened for us. It, it hasn't. We've always have to work our way up to get the positions that we currently have. And so I don't know whether it is a sit down meeting with all these CEOs and team presidents or what needs to happen. But like the hiring needs to be better. You can't just say, oh yeah, I've worked with this person, or you give that person a leg up for them to be the next employee within your company, because there's a lot of that too, friends of friends, um, which is just I understand it, but how is that helping diversity and inclusion if that is the case? So yeah.
I guess that kind of leads me to another question that I wanted to ask you about your experience navigating the job market with your intersection of identities. Because you had mentioned on most podcasts about when you came onto the Sharks job listing and you were like a little skeptical about it. And I think there was like some snippet in there where they wanted to diversify, and you were just like, what's this about?
I mean, every job is going to have that little inclusion paragraph or what they offer or how they're equal employment and all that other stuff. But the Sharks, that was the first statement that I came across that seemed very personal. Like they were literally going to make the effort at doing the right thing. And so to me, and still to me, I think there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. But again, I think it comes with time, it comes with money, and it comes with people wanting to come into a space in which they know will be uncomfortable. Which having all of those factor in, there's not many people that want to be uncomfortable. So, conversations, whether that's on, you know, the diverse side, like POCs, being like, I know I'm going to face X, Y, and Z, or I can possibly face X, Y, and Z. It needs to be a thought process because you can't just go into a situation and be like, this is going to be roses. Man, it's not going to be roses. You know what I mean? At any point in time, someone can say something. And guess what? You either got to choose to just let it go or you're going to be the one to talk back. But most of the time, you probably need to let it go, especially in a fan crowd scenario. And just, it sucks, but that's just what we face on a regular basis. You know what I mean? Like, in hockey, fans in general are not necessarily the kindest. Um, don't know if you guys saw the Mike Greer post that they posted the interview with the Junior Sharks on the Instagram the other day, and there was a nasty comment about like, oh, that's why it's so great to see a lot of other white GMs, and I'm just like, this is not the time or place. Like,
I didn't
how
see
can
that
we
comment.
look up to white GMs? Yes, they can be great people to talk to, have conversations to. But how is that motivating us to wanting to be in those positions if we don't see anyone that looks like us? And that's what a lot of people don't understand. It's like you see that role model consistently with Caucasians. You know what I mean? Um, but they can't get over the identity of it's not really all about them.
Yeah.
It's it's not about any of us really. You know what I mean? We're seriously just trying to make the world better, and that just seems to be the ever going. Yeah, I mean, ongoing conversation because people have their viewpoints are so strong. They're just like, no, I don't want to do that. No, this is how I grew up. Great, but there are other opinions.
Must be
The
nice.
other opinions. So I think that's really just it. That we need to really value others' opinions a
I'm
lot more.
curious,
Yes.
um, because it's not something I've actually thought about, but have you actually experienced something while on the job where someone's saying certain things to you?
Um, there are fans that will say stuff about photo holes and whatnot, and I don't remember anything like inward. Well, maybe I've been something like 10 years ago, but not coming vividly in my mind.
Okay.
Um, because I've always gone into situations being like, I grew up middle class, and I grew up around a diverse group of people. So, and my mom named me Amanda because most people will think that's a white name. That's a true story.
Yeah.
Um, so we didn't really have that issue per se. But like once you get into the real world, you're not sheltered anymore. So then you see the issues that occur on a regular basis. You know what I mean? Like they may not be bluntly saying it, but you can just see everything that's behind things. And then you start to point them out, and then it's like, well, that's not your job. Okay. But I want a fair chance. But that fair chance, it's unless you're here, like director role, doesn't matter. You're just an employee. So I think I mentioned it. The first job I was let go on February 1st. It at the time was like a what did I do wrong? My coworker who was Cape Verdean, so that's African American, was like, you know, just you need to, tame it, kind of just do your work. And at the time, I was like, but that's wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She was older, love her to death. She was like a mother. But that really started to get to me is like, but why can't we make change, or why can't we create change, and why do we have to stay silent about certain things? Yes, people will always come back and be like, well, you have no place to say this, and I'm like, great, you have no place to say what you have to, or what you've said. it, it's so it's a hard reality, but I'm just trying to make it so there are people that look like me in all of sports, because that's an issue as it is. We see so many um white females in social media roles. Like, is that what they call diversity?
Because
you
they're
know
women. Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. But it all falls under the same branch of,
Yeah.
there's someone above them who is probably a white male.
Hmm.
So again, really, that's your
That's the best you can do.
that's the best you can do. Um, so yeah, it's a hard reality,
Yeah.
but it is.
I did also want to ask because you touched on it. With Mike Greer being named the first black GM in NHL history. I was
Yeah.
curious if there was like anything you've experienced when they made that announcement. Like yay, we're stepping in the right direction. Were you genuinely excited? Was it just like finally?
I can't really tell you my thoughts on it at that point in time. Like, there were rumors about it. There were, because yes, I do listen to other sources and whatnot. And I was just like, cool. There's also rumors about a female being the GM. You know what I mean? And I was just like, well, who would I rather have? And I either or would have worked for me, and I'm happy to see it. But again, he is the first in what was last year, 2022.
Hmm.
Yes, it is a finally, but it's also like, does he have full control of his responsibilities? You know what I mean? Because I think a lot of times in GM roles and head coaching roles, you're like, oh, it's the first three. You get the first 3 years, and then if we don't see this team going in the right direction, you're done. So it almost like my mind goes to like, okay, please let this work out. You know what I mean? Like, it's been a rocky first year, but I think everybody knew it was going to be that way. It's just, how do we get over the hump to not only make this team successful, but to kind of give him the push in the right direction, the confidence in the right direction, because that's also what it's about, confidence. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times, even in my role, sometimes I'm just like, man, is this even worth it? You second guess yourself quite a bit. So I can only imagine the amount of decisions that he's probably going to have to make here in the next week or so. And that's going to be, yeah, ooh, that's going to be tough.
Good luck.
Yeah. Good luck. Yes, exactly. So yes, it is a step in the right direction, but I need to see more of it.
Yeah, for sure.
That's where I'm at with the NHL. Period. I need to see more of it.
Yeah, for sure. That's why we started this podcast too, right? We want to highlight people who are making a difference and like adding a little color to this league.
And not just the NHL. I'll go ahead and say in sports in general. I
Yeah.
think the NFL has a huge problem with minority head coaches. Um, the NBA, I think, is a little bit better, but still, like, it's not like a full blown effort to sit here and be like, hey, we need like team roles to be diverse as well. And again, that comes with, oh, we'll just hire a female in that position, a white female, and that will take care of the diversity. Or we'll just hire a trans person,
Check mark.
and that'll just take care of the diversity. I You know what I mean? Like there is no, what is the word? There is no substance behind it yet,
Yeah.
or intentional. Like fully tell somebody why you're actually hiring them. I know you have to like say it to the public in a certain way, or he was the best option, the best candidate, but fully say, we were looking to make a diverse hire. God damn it. Like, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Because then you're putting your foot down and saying, yeah, this is the direction we're gonna go. Because this is what we believe is right.
Yeah.
So
We definitely need to get back in the playoffs so we can start giving you all more exciting things to photograph.
I
But
mean, it's been rough, but here's what I say to that. Despite the record, the guys in the locker room are very animated. It's just close bond of players in which you didn't like at the beginning of the season. I was like, who is this guy? You know what I mean? I was like, okay, cool. Like, and they're probably listening. They're probably like, oh, great, this is what you thought of me. I mean, but like it, like a Brent Burns. You know who Brent Burns was, and you knew how difficult he could be at times. But then how funny he could be at times. You know what I mean? Like it's just all players. But the guys have. I mean, I love this team as far as in locker room personality. I think there could be a little bit more personality, but I get it. It's hockey, okay? Like we all have this thing about, oh well, it's hockey players. They're not going to give you much, and I'm like, some of them can. They just choose not to because they don't want to be talked about amongst their teammates. So yeah, or made fun of because that happens too. So
Okay, so I think this is a good segue to my question. Because you've recently been doing a like player profiles called Oceans Unknown with the Sharks.
yep, yep.
And I'm curious to know if that was an idea you brought to them or if they were like, hey, we're interested in doing this and you're great at this. So let's do that. And then secondly, what's the experience like doing something like that, following them around their cities and like getting to know them a little bit more personally?
Oceans Unknown was not an ideal they brought up. That was definitely me and Aaron Hodges, who is the senior manager of digital. Um, I've kind of always wanted to do something like that. Didn't feel like I have the backing to do it. Have hinted at basically being like, yeah, why don't we do something a little bit more intimate? Um, and so, honestly, the first one we didn't really even tell anybody about um, until it was posted. Let's just be real because you ask for forgiveness. That's kind of how we took that approach.
oops, how
It's
did
like,
that get
hey,
there?
it's an off day. Cool. Let's just why not? It was in New York City. It was with a former player of ours, Matt, who is now with the Avalanche. It
Yeah.
was a sad day. It was a very sad
It
day.
was so sad.
But he had never been on a train, and we didn't know that. At first, it was more like a, "Hey, we'll just shoot in a hotel," but then we were walking earlier, and we were like, "What if the next game was against New Jersey Devils? What if we had him underneath a train to Jersey or a past train to Jersey?" You know what I mean? And I was just like, "Would he go for it? Like, surely it would only take an hour to like maybe get on a train, hop off." You know what I mean? And so he was down for it, and that was his first train experience. Who knew?
That's so cute.
But that's just it. Like, I think you have to like step out of your comfort zone sometimes and like ask questions or ask the players. Hey, are you interested in this? You know what I mean? And then, everything is about the suit nowadays. And his style, we just happened to walk into his favorite store. Had no clue that it was his favorite store. But and that's just it. So these are just meant to happen. That one meant was definitely meant to happen. And then the next one we did was Cheech, Barracuda, so Sharks player. And I totally didn't know he was that stylish. He was just breaking out some. I was just like, oh, okay, so you actually try to look good. He goes, yeah. Because some players don't. They just have suits and they just wear it because they have to wear the suits. Some like him, he has like a whole style. Bordello has a whole style, as you guys know. Like it's a thing, and that makes it more intriguing when they actually like to dress up or buy clothes from a certain spot. Um, who did we do? Spetch. He's all about the sport jackets. He has about 17 of them. You just would never know that. I mean, when he played in Winnipeg for this short amount of time, he went to this one sport and he just bought up some sport jackets. Like that is, those are all things that you would never know unless you got the time um, to actually talk to the players and actually do something super cool and fun. Lawrence, we went back to Carolina. I did not actually know that he ate at that Chick-fil-A all the time. Like yes, I know. We did not think about that. I did not think about that. I totally forgot about that. We get it. How much of a
Trauma all
chicken?
coming
I
back
get
to
it.
me
I
now.
get it. I get it. I understand. Uh, but like legit, those are like the little things that players they don't necessarily think about. Like they just eat there and they're just like, hey, this is what we did. So it's been very fun. It's been very cool to follow some guys around. We're hoping to do it here in San Jose. Though we know it's a little bit difficult because they have their lives here. They have, some of them have kids. They have wives, you know what I mean? So it's like, how do you do it to where it's not intruding on their personal life?
Hmm.
So I think that's next venture for us. But it's been great to get to know some of these players, and it's been great to introduce something that is not hockey related on the ice, practice, whatever, to the platform. Whether or not people like it or not, well, that's on them. I like it, so it's artwork for me. So yeah, I think it's been great. It's
I
it's
love
been
it.
kind of yeah.
Because this is like one thing that we always talk about, Jay and I. Like, hockey needs more personality, and this at least gives the players a little bit more of that for us to see as
Yes.
fans.
Yeah. And that is what we're going for. I think in the future, I've thrown around the idea of selling prints. Though I don't know this season if that would be the right thing to do with the record and the morale of the team currently. But eventually, like pop up shop or selling some prints or just getting the fans involved or having the fans being able to take home something that is artwork and not just a hockey shot, that'll be great. So,
1,000% you should do it. 1,000%.
You got two people here that will buy.
For sure, for sure. And we know many others who would be in line for that.
yeah.
Um, what what's your favorite type of event to photograph?
Does it have to be hockey?
Hockey or non-hockey? Like what would be like your dream to like you'd wake up every day just excited to just do that?
Well, I love women's sports. That's something that I've been trying to get into more. It's a battle. I'll be very honest with that. But women's sports is something that I would like to advocate for a lot more, whether that's telling stories, whether that is telling the stories of fans, connections to players, whether, the newer teams in the league versus some of the old heads of the league. Like, what's the comparison? What's the fan base? How is this market growing in terms of, well, this may be a negative as my former boss has told me, like in comparison to the last league, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people will be like, well, in the last league we didn't have X, Y, and Z, and now we have so much more leeway with how much the salary cap is, and X, like there's a lot more that this league presents than obviously the last league did. I mean, for instance, we're still talking about equal pay in the Canadian national team. which is kind of ridiculous, right? We just went through that fight here in the US, and now they're having to do the same in Canada. So I think just showcasing women's sports more um, would definitely be like a dream of mine. Like having a gallery of just me photographing women's sports is me having a gallery of anything really. It's kind of high on my list right now because I've done a lot of work that printed big would look awesome. So yeah, gallery space and women's sports are two things that are I'm passionate about. Concerts are still a thing. You know what I mean? I think being able to tell the story of an artist, their daily life, what happens before the show and after the show, um, is pretty intriguing to me. So it's more intimacy. I feel like with things. Hockey, like if I could have a full one-on-one day with a player and just photograph or do little clips of their ins and outs, that would be great. You know what I mean? But like a lot of that does not happen unless you make the connections, and so that's the hardest part. Is trying to make the connections, trying to get the foot in the door. With women's sports, and it doesn't happen overnight. So yeah.
Do you know that the Bay Area is gonna get a soccer team soon, within like the next year or so?
Do you know that has not been announced by the league? So that's why we really can't say anything about that. I was just
Oh,
told this, but yeah, I mean, yes, the Bay Area will get a team here coming up here soon, and that will be great.
just insert yourself in there.
If that was easy, you know, I
Just like, I'm
that
here,
would be
use me.
great. That that would be great. But like I don't know how many of those folks listen to this podcast. So I really can't just insert myself into a position. Um because people have their favorites, and I feel like the Bay Area in particular, they have their class of photographers that they normally go to. Every city does. I'm not just pointing out the Bay Area, but it's that type of thing here. And so like I don't ever want to overstep someone else who is already fighting for the position. You know what I mean? Because we're all in the same boat. You know what I mean? Like we're here to tell stories of athletes. And so whoever gets the chance to do that, more power to you, rooting for you. Would love to be a part of it, but that's just me.
The Sharks like socials have gotten so much better than like in the past couple of years, where it's just like, here's this one thing that they're doing at warm-ups. Look at these two photos of them skating around, and then like we won't get another post until like game day, where they just start showing highlights. It's very like bare
It's
minimum.
very
And
bland, yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
so
well, you have to thank Aaron Hodges for that one,
for
and
sure, yeah.
like I think you need to bring her on the podcast because she could probably talk your ear off. And I mean, girl does not sleep.
Get us in contact. We'll have her on next.
But she values photography a lot, and not every social media person does. It's all about the video. You know what I mean? A lot of people be like, "Yeah, we just need videos." They'll glance over the photography. Oh, how can that be? How can it be told? And I'm like, within photography there is a thing called B-roll, right? Is the things, or say if a person, you're featuring a person, they have a watch on, or they have a certain style of pants on. You get little snippets of those pieces of items, and that's your B-roll. You know what I mean? And video, it's everything else. It's the thing that makes the clip exciting. It's the draw. It's like, oh, let's fly this drone over an arena to draw the fans into the shot. You know what I mean? So it's all the same, just people just don't realize it. It's like, oh, but videos are hit. So are photos if you use them correctly. It's really all the same. I know most people Most video people be like, no, it's not. I said, okay. It's just like most video people taking photos. They just take photos and be like, yeah, that was a good photo. And I'm sitting here like, yeah, it's okay. I'm that type of person. I'm just like, yeah, I'm not even impressed by my own work at times. But it's yeah, not.
I mean,
So yeah, I'm very hard to please with anything.
as an
So
artist, we are our own worst critics or our hardest
yeah,
critics. I forget how the saying goes.
yes.
That's why you need others to tell you what a great job you're doing.
What a novel concept.
You're doing a great job.
I mean, I think that's what social media is, though, right?
Oh yeah, I guess.
Like the instant gratification of
Ugh.
things. Like people post things, you're like, you feel good about it, and then someone posts something bad about it, and you're just like, oh, I suck. Right?
I
Like
was like
at one point, that is how we all thought. Like we were like, cool.
100 people
Like
telling you
people
you're
love our work.
awesome. Couple people
And then
saying,
there's
"Oh,
like
you're
one person
awful."
like, yeah, but maybe you should have tried this. And then we're just like,
Oh, you're right. What was I thinking?
I'm like, yeah, we can always try something new. Like it's part of the process. You can always try something new. It's just maybe I want to post that. And cool if y'all don't like it, but I like it. Crap. Like it's what it's about. I think I have the saying, you are not for everyone.
Mm.
You're not for everyone. Like so I think most of us just stop acting like that we are or trying to like please other people with how we post, what we post, X, Y, and Z. You are not for everybody. If you're gonna lose a fan, lose a fan. Like were they really there for your work to begin with? You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
that's serious talk.
We're about that here. Go ahead.
I mean, essentially, be you and take up that space that you need to. And if they're not going to allow you to do that, you need to start looking for other options.
Speaking of taking space,
Yes.
we've been asking a couple of people this question already, but obviously you're pretty present on socials and you know what's going on in this league regarding Pride Nights.
Uh,
As a queer woman,
yeah.
is there anything you'd like to add to the conversation?
Our first Pride night or hockey is for everyone night last year, that's happened to be my first. There was a big fight that night that broke out. I heard some other things that happened that night that didn't seem very inclusive because my fiance was also there that night. And then this season, one of my part timers went to a game and she was harassed by one of the fans or another fan. And she was just like he mentioned, oh, would your husband do something like that? Or da 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 da. She's like, no, this is my girlfriend. And he had something to say about that. And so I don't, it's a hard topic, especially in the space of hockey. People get, oh, I don't know. They just don't seem to care. Or because they weren't raised a certain way, they don't have to respect you or respect other people with the flag or what. There's been a lot of or a lot of things like in my lifetime that in the Baptist church, um, the term was funny. Oh, he's funny. You know what I mean? So it's a hard conversation to have, even with the folks that look like you. Because not all of us can be truly out. Some of us still have to go back home and act like we're in the closet.
Mm.
Um, so as far as the National Hockey League, I understand They're trying to get better. Um, there was a panel that was on last June, but past that, I really haven't heard anything else regarding that whole coalition, whatever you want to call it, um, which I think each team needs to do a better job of organizing Pride nights or hockey, however you want to say it. Hockey is for everyone night, because I'm confused too on that. Like, is it the same thing? Because sometimes it appears as if hockey is for everyone is a Pride night. So I I I, I don't know. You guys tell me. Like, is that the same thing?
It can
I don't
be.
think I don't think the NHL knows what it is.
Okay.
There was this whole thing last year where there were some writers who were trying to figure out, is that even like a campaign thing that the NHL is still doing, because it was very confusing with this whole, is there ambassadors now, or like what's going on? And I don't think there was like a clear answer, and I feel like the teams that don't actually care to like genuinely include people and understand what it means to be inclusive and want to diversify, they fall under the hockey is for everyone, because they feel like, well, we just do this one thing, right? Like, it's Black History Month, so we just do like the jersey thing, right? And like that's it, right? Versus other teams where I do feel that there are a couple who are trying, like, they are less about the hockey is for everyone like hashtag thing, and they're like genuinely like, this is a night to really shine on what it means to celebrate pride, celebrate like Asian American heritage, like all this stuff. So for me, hockey is for everyone is just like, it's even like when like early on when we were trying to figure out like what hashtag should we use when we like post on Twitter, and I was telling Nessa, I don't like the hockey is for everyone hashtag. Don't use that hashtag. I hate it. So
Yeah, I mean, it's I think I blog posted that last year, or was it early? Yes, it was last year. And but I've since, I think there's a book out that says hockey is for me, which makes a lot more sense. So in the grand scheme of things, it it is for everyone if you're thinking about, okay, well, it can be for me. It can be. It's just, how do you make that a campaign that people feel is, well, that people feel has the backing behind it, because I don't necessarily think it has the backing behind it currently. Um, and it's disappointing, but considering there was just a group for LGBTQIA plus started last year within the NHL, it makes sense. They're still very much in the beginning stages of, well, how do we appeal to this, dare I say it, other group, because that's how it's looked upon. Okay, now we got to appeal to another group. Yeah, I mean, you can appeal to the masses, because there's quite a bit of us that are queer. Half of us can't say it, but I actually wonder how many hockey players are. You know what I mean? Like, because every now and then, like, I'm like, they could be. You know what I mean? Like, because you don't know. You really don't know. And will you ever know until they actually come out and say it?
If they ever come out
You
and
know,
say it, yeah.
if they ever come out and say it too. So I've always wondered that.
We're all a little curious about it. And it would make it would progress the whole league forward so much if somebody, like, I hate using this, brave enough to say it. Like, why do we have to be brave? Just to be like, hey, this is me, by the way. I'm so brave.
Right. And that's just it. Like, that whole emphasis of the good old boy club, or it needs to stop. Like you, why? We're in 2023.
Some people aren't. That's the problem.
Well, they're living in what, 1980, 1970, 1960.
They're physically in 2023. They're mentally back there.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I just think the league needs to do a better job on both ends of it. That being, Pride hockey is for everyone night and Black History Month night. If I'm gonna cross the spectrum of it.
Jane, I think that they should have a drag queen come out for the Sharks Pride Night. Be in their face.
I
Although
don't
now that it's very controversial, it's like,
I think someone brought that up the other day, and I was just like, "Really? Are we really gonna do that?" That'd be kind of cool. I know. We probably wouldn't want that image. Be like, "Oh, the Sharks are the first team that
I mean, why not?
making it."
I mean,
But
if it wasn't with all this crazy political stuff happening, it's not the best idea right now. It wouldn't be safe for a drag queen to come out right now. But it would be awesome if it was.
yeah, yeah, I would like to be a fly on the wall for that one.
Hmm.
Let me know which team does it first. I'll be like, "Oh boy, who's first person is gonna throw something on the ice? I can see this. Goodness, that would not be great."
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, last question for me. What's your favorite part of your job?
There's two parts to this. So last year I would have said taking photos of the actual like hockey game. This year I'm gonna say being able to form a team of photographers to complete various number of tasks that, because after COVID, we've got all this stuff coming back, and there's certainly more than just hockey to cover. And it's been great to have a pool of photographers to pull and be like, hey, can are you able to work this night? Are you able to work this night? And so that's been probably the favorite, or one of my favorite parts of this job, is being able to effectively delegate. Yeah, I think I can confidently say that. I don't know. I probably am still terrible at it, but because when you have your ideals, you're like, well, I can pull this off. Can someone else pull it off? But it will look bad if you just did everything and not let those others learn, or like get a taste of understanding what it's about. So I still have those moments. I do. So
I feel
yeah.
you 1,000%. All right. Well, on that note, we'd like to thank Amanda for coming on to the podcast today and having a chat with us.
Yeah,
Had a lot of fun
absolutely.
talking with you. And if you're not following the Sharks socials or Amanda on her socials, go ahead and do it because you're missing out. I don't care if you're not a Sharks fan, you are definitely missing out. So go ahead and do that. And as always, I am your host, Jay.
I'm Nessa. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.